My model is the 10 domains of
Yeah, what are the other
dysregulation.
6?
Exactly. So the other 6 are basically a product of all of this area that I've been looking at and talking to you about until now on the podcast, which is this broader perspective. So one of them is on sleep. We know that the circadian rhythm or the sleep cycle in ADHD is biologically dysregulated. Another one is time appraisal, which is definitely dysregulated in ADHD.
Please, that triggers me. No one in my house has ever been on time, ever.
There's the immune system is dysregulated. I told you before, immune overreactivity, making mistakes and attacking the self, producing too many chemicals that lead to too much pain or too much fatigue. The arousal and energy expenditure is dysregulated. Arousal, both brain arousal, but also the autonomic nervous system. This is all about where do we channel energy? Do we need to channel energy to the muscles and the heart so we can run away from this dangerous situation? Or is it safe? Are we in parasympathetic mode where we can regulate, you can put more blood to the brain? You know, how are we regulating the autonomic nervous system? That's the domain. So yeah, and there are more, but that's the idea, is that multiple domains in ADHD. My book deals with it in detail, and if people will resonate with this because there's no doubt about it, because it's just a far more nuanced and complex and in-depth analysis of something which we have just been focusing too much on certain, and we've actually been focusing in a narrow way, partly because that we're used to dealing with it as a childhood problem. And it's everything about ADHD in the way it's described is very child-centric. Even the criteria to diagnose it refer to, running around too much and but this model allows us to look in more depth, and actually allows us to describe ADHD in a much more realistic and accurate way, because people forget that the way that you diagnose something, the criteria for diagnosis, are not the same as the best description of that thing. They're there because they help differentiate between other things. You might have wondered why this name of this podcast, the Anxious Achiever, why anxiety is not on that list. I don't know, a person with ADHD that doesn't get anxiety, it's not on the list because it's not a good differentiator. It doesn't mean that it's not part of ADHD. ADHD and anxiety are like intertwined.
They're like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, and if it gets too much anxiety, it sort of becomes a separate entity in its own right, and you get a separate diagnosis. But ADHD on its own, without a doubt, in virtually everyone, is riddled with anxiety, social anxiety, or phobic anxiety, or trauma anxiety. And so
virtually everyone who has ADHD, or just virtually everyone?
Virtually everyone who has ADHD struggles with anxiety.